Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we're gonna talk about recovery from runs, what to do when you get injured, and what you can do to prevent getting injured in the first place. So first, let's start with recovering from your daily runs. I have to give a little disclaimer here that this is a little tricky balance to strike. In my ideal world, I would want you to make small enough adjustments to your workload of running that never have to worry about recovery from running too much. That's where this idea of slowly progressing your distance and speed comes from, not biting off more than you can chew. With that said, it's also important to push ourselves a little, and I know there will be days where you've gone for a longer run or where for one reason or another you feel particularly sore or just tired after a run, and it's important that you can get those tools to help you get back to running as soon as you can. So I'm gonna share with you some of my favorite recovery methods here. Let's start right here with my very favorite and most effective recovery method, which is a little counterintuitive for some people: active recovery. Active recovery means that you're using exercise to recover from your exercise. But before you can freak out too much about how crazy that sounds, let me explain a little of how this works. When you've gone on a run and your knees are feeling really beat up and your body's just sore, that's when there's inflammation in your body. And inflammation is an important part of how your body works. I'm gonna keep this brief, but I wanna explain a little of what's going on. So when you use your muscles or bones or cartilage, there are teeny tiny tears and mechanical trauma that happen in these tissues. This triggers an inflammatory response, which among other things will make the area feel hot and swollen. A big part of the reason for this is your body is bringing blood to the area, which is packed with all the nutrients and building blocks that are required for healing. So when your muscles feel swollen and sore, that can actually be a really good thing because it means your body's getting the right signals to build up all of the body tissues a little stronger than they were before. Now, the problem is this. Sometimes we've gone a little too far in our exercise to where we're so sore that we don't exercise the next day at all, or even for the rest of the week, or sometimes for the month. When our inflammatory response is so strong that it's keeping us from moving, that's when we probably need to intervene. And again, let me say that I'm a huge proponent for rest. We don't get stronger when we exercise. We actually get stronger after we exercise and when we're resting or when we're sleeping. So we need to set aside time to rest. And there's plenty of room for sleeping in and taking days off, but I'm also a big proponent for something called relative rest. What that means is that while you're trying to recover, you may still exercise, but you're decreasing the intensity in one way or another. Maybe you went for a long run or you tried a trail run and it made you extra sore. Well, for the next few days, it might behoove you to run very slowly so that it's easier on your body, or maybe you even just walk for your next couple of workouts. That's where this active recovery comes in. When your body's sore, there's healing that needs to happen. And movement is actually an important part of the healing process. Let's say my house caught fire and I ran inside to save my running shoes and I got a major burn on my arm and on the side of my torso. Well, if I sat with my hands at my side and I didn't move for a week while I'm recovering, my skin would probably grow back wonky. The skin of my arm and the skin of my torso would grow together so that it would be stuck at my side. That's called a contracture, and it's a big problem when people get burned. But the reason it happens is while my skin is healing, it's growing back according to the movement stimulus that I give it. If I never move my arm from my side, my skin will grow those two together because I never gave it a stimulus that it needs to move. But if I gently go through a range of motion while my skin's healing, it'll allow the skin to grow back in a way that allows me to move. The same is true for your running recovery. If I run hard and then I sit for 72 hours with my quads in a shortened position, they'll heal to some extent in that shortened position, so that when I go to bend my leg after, it may be really hard to bend. A better choice is to try to stay active while you're resting. Continue to walk around just like normal. Continue to move. It may be uncomfortable, but your body will work much, that's 3 muches, much better if you do. As a part of this, you may want to consider doing a recovery run or something along those lines. You can do a recovery run later in the same day as your hard workout or the next day. It also doesn't even have to be a run. It could be a walk, could be a bike ride, could be swimming, but the important thing is that you're moving your body and you're not pushing yourself in the speed or the difficulty. You want it to be very, very easy and just go for a long time. This helps keep those muscles from tightening up. But the movement of your muscles also helps pump some of the extra fluid with all the extra material from the construction site that's going on there and helps clean it up a little bit. There's a ton of other reasons that active recovery is great, but I won't go into all of them. Just remember that while doing your resting, it's important to keep moving over those next days or weeks. Another great recovery tip is an ice bath. This is awesome for several reasons. It can decrease the swelling going on in your body, but it also has a pain relieving aspect to it. Now, it can take a lot of mental stamina to get in cold water, and for that reason, I just don't think it's for everyone because it can be hard. But you can do a similar thing if you put an ice pack on your leg or just use ice in general. It won't be as strong of an effect, but it will still benefit you. So what if you don't have access to a fancy ice bath? Well, I personally have a river in my city, and I just go wade in, and I just sit in the river with my legs in the water for a few minutes when I want to experience this. It's cold water that comes from the mountains, and it's free, so that works great for me. If you're gonna use a river or a lake to sit in and do your ice bath, just exercise caution and use common sense. Moving water can be dangerous, and deep water can be dangerous as well, so just consider that. You can also just fill a bathtub with cold water and a little bit of ice. Sit for a few minutes if you can. It'll probably be really hard at first to stay there, but breathe, focus, and it'll get easier in a minute or two. Next recovery tip would be massage. If you can find someone to rub out your calves, you are one lucky son of a gun, or daughter of a gun, as the case may be. If not, using a foam roller can be a great alternative. For a long time, I just used a rolling pin that you'd find in a kitchen, but get creative with it and find ways to massage those areas that are sore. A lot of people are in the mindset that more intense is better when it comes to massage. If that works for you, that's totally fine. But don't feel like you have to go crazy with this. Just softly moving through the sore areas can be a great way to help a little. Next thing I want to talk about is making sure you're getting enough water and food. Water is calorie-free, it's pretty cheap. Make sure you're drinking enough. Try to drink more water when you've been sweating more. A great way to tell your hydration status is by looking at your urine. If it's dark yellow, you definitely need to drink more. If it looks more clear like lemonade or water, you're probably doing okay. So let's talk about food. A lot of people who start a running program like this might have an underlying goal to lose weight and become a little bit more fit. That's cool. The temptation for those people will probably be to restrict calories when they're starting all this extra movement. But let me give you a little word of warning that you may want to try adjusting your focus instead. Rather than focusing on restriction, I recommend you focus on addition. Focus on eating the right foods that are packed with nutrients that you need. This will leave less room for the unhealthy foods. Additionally, if you spend a little more energy during the day, you'll probably want to eat some more calories than you normally do. There's a lot of reasons for this, but the bottom line is that if you're constantly in a major calorie deficit, your body will get tired, and you'll actually spend fewer calories during the day, which will often lead to less weight loss, and sometimes even weight gain. But by making slow, sustainable changes to your movement and to your diet, you can lose some of that weight if you want. And if it's slow and sustainable, you're more likely to maintain that change. Now, if you're not overweight or obese, you probably don't have a whole lot of extra body weight to lose. So it's even more important for you to get extra nutrient-rich and even caloric food when you've been exercising more than normal. People who don't get enough food are often a lot more prone to injuries than others. If you're already at a healthy weight but you just want to improve the way you look, might I recommend rather than focusing on losing weight, you emphasize building muscle and becoming a more functional athlete. Become faster, become stronger, all that type of stuff. Sometimes that even means gaining weight. But often the people who are most attractive aren't necessarily skinnier than other people, but they're just better shaped, in large part because their bodies are doing what they're intended to do, which is move athletically. The better you can move your body to recover and grow back strong, the better off you'll be. So those are my recommendations when it comes to recovery from running. But what about if you're already injured? Well, an injury is just a little more intense version of that breaking down and inflammation process and building back with rest and active recovery. So you can apply a lot of the same principles here, but obviously if an injury is serious enough, like a broken bone, you should go see a medical professional who can help you recover. If you're nursing a minor injury on your own, like a muscle strain or an ankle sprain, the most important principle we've talked about will be this principle of active recovery. It really goes hand in hand with this idea of loading from the beginning of the course. You want to decrease the risk of strain on that tissue, but you still keep moving it. Then you can slowly build up the intensity as it heals and as you get stronger. Interestingly, fear is a big issue when it comes to injuries. Sometimes people get injured and they're afraid. Once you've experienced the freedom of running and you've come to rely on it for your mental and physical health, it can feel really scary when you're faced with the fact that you may need to take it easy for a little bit. But there's a little bit of trust required on your part. You have to believe that your body is capable of healing and allow yourself to let go of that same exercise intensity for a few days or a few weeks while you trust that your body's doing its job to heal. It can be really helpful to focus on what you can do instead of what you can't do. If you can't run, don't push it. Walk instead, or bike, or swim, or weightlift, or use an elliptical machine. Experiment till you find something that you can do to stay active. So that's it for this video. In the next one, I'm gonna talk about my final injury recovery and prevention technique, which is weightlifting. This one is so important that I dedicated an entire video to this alone. So when you're ready, go ahead and move on to the next video.